I don't think you have to be an insider. You don't have to come from that industry to do it. You just have to spend the time to learn what pains they face.
How do you think about risk?
Right? There's the myth that entrepreneurs are risk takers. And it's not true.
What are your thoughts on AI?
I think that...
Aaron Kassover, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Let's start off with something pretty spicy. What are your thoughts on AI?
Okay. So first thing I want to say is I am not like an ostrich sticking my head in the sand and pretending it doesn't exist. So caveat what I'm about to say with that. So my clients are insurance agents, and usually they're not the first to adopt new technology, but news of AI has reached my industry. And so people are asking about it, how do we use it? And I always turn them around and say, well, what do you want it to do? And nobody really knows. But I was at a conference. It was a meeting of a bunch of CEOs. It's like an executive group I'm a part of. And these are CEOs of all different kinds of companies. Some pretty big, several $100 million in revenue companies. And, I'm one of the tiny companies there. Some old school, like old trades and manufacturing. And so we're all talking about AI. And so they brought in a speaker to tell us how AI is going to change their world. And one of the things he said is, how many of you have a budget for stock photography? And of course, every hand in the room goes up. And he's like, well, you can just strike that off your budget. No more stock photography. You could just go to AI, to Image Journey or Dolly and tell it what you need, and it will create your stock photography. And on our platform, we license a lot of stock photography for our customers to use. And so I was like, well, that'd be cool if I could not do that anymore. So our customers, again, insurance agents. And so I thought, what's a picture they might want to use? And so I thought about agents selling to Medicare customers over 65. And so I said, give me a photorealistic image of a 65-year-old couple happily dancing in their kitchen while preparing for a dinner party. That's a great photo, right? You can see that on the insurance website, this happy couple dancing in the kitchen, with like a half-cooked meal in the background or something. So let me show you. Got it?
What's wrong with this image? If anyone's listening to this, there's clearly a guy wearing a dress. Have they switched around the heads? Is that the females? The one on the right's a bit hard to tell.
First, there's nothing wrong with this image. But there is some context that is important. And so we have a guy, maybe he's Scottish, maybe it's a kilt. But this is just such a funny thing to me. This is like AI in one picture. It's like if you stand 50 feet away and squint, it looks great. But once you get up close and look at it closely, it's not ready.
The shoes look a bit off. That doesn't look like a human foot. And there's some of the cuts, the cups and plates and stuff in the background.
The shoes. He's got one high heel shoe and one low heeled shoe.
Oh, jeez.
I think there's like a colander hanging on the lamp or something.
Yeah, there is. You're right.
But yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's like the kilt. The kilt is the thing. And I'd also say that they look pretty old.
Yeah.
Like if I were 65, I want to look fit and handsome and healthy, and they look pretty old.
It's been a rough 65 for these people.
Yeah, rough year. So I'm not gonna cut my stock photography budget yet.
Awesome.
So,
well, let's just switch context again. So just for anyone who's never met you yet, tell me, what is AgentMethods and who is it for?
So we make marketing software for independent insurance agents. And so our customers are in the US only. We only sell to agents in the US, but it's like your local insurance agent, Main Street agent, or the person that you buy life or health insurance from. And they are, the term independent is an important thing because that means they don't work for an insurance company. So there's two types of insurance agents. There's the ones who they're called captive, and they are a representative of one company. If you go to talk to them, you'll buy an insurance policy from that company. And there's independent agents who can sell any company, and so they're going to go and help you find the right product for what you need. They have a problem because of regulation, because they're independent. The insurance companies have very strict rules around what they can do to support.
Okay.
So they can't provide them with much in terms of marketing materials or client generation materials, websites, email, stuff like that. So they have to do it on their own. And these people are salespeople. They're not web designers. They're not marketers. They're not copywriters. And so our platform helps them do all of that. So yeah, they have a website builder, so we can launch and run their website for them. We have email marketing and email automation system, social media posting, scheduling. Those are the big ones, but kind of the functions they need to run their business. And then on top of that, we have a content library that provides content templates, pre-written campaigns, pre-written newsletters. We do blogging, so that all of that work of kind of lighting up their marketing is taken care of for them.
Fantastic. Where are you sitting right now in terms of revenue and team size?
So we are revenue. We're in the 7-figure world. Team size. We in the U.S. we have sales and support and sure product management here. There are 8 of us in the U.S. and then we have development and some back-end support in Asia. We have 6 in Asia.
And what's the origin story? Like, how did you, of all fields, did you work in insurance? Do you have a background in insurance? How did you come up with the idea? How did you come across the problem initially?
I was consulting. And so I started my career working for one of the biggest ad agencies in the US, a company called Leo Burnett. And if you think about any brand that has like a cartoon character mascot, it's probably Leo Burnett. So McDonald's, Ronald McDonald, Rice Krispies, the Snap Crackle Pop, the Jolly Green Giant. So this is like an old school ad agency. And they had launched a web development arm. And so I was hired into that closely out of college to help them go back to those customers and launch websites. This was in the 90s when this was all new stuff. And so we got to launch Pop-Tarts.com and McDonald's.com, UnitedAirlines.com,
cool,
Hallmark.com. Some huge brands, and it was a great experience. I worked there for about a year, and then I sort of foolishly said I can do this myself, and went off and started doing consulting on website development. And I got one client that was an insurance company. And this is how it goes with consulting, right? You get one, and then somebody left and went to another company and brought me with, and then somebody left there and brought me with, and then I woke up one day and all of my clients were insurance companies. And I didn't plan on that happening, but it's sort of just a space I fell into, and I was working with one of those companies, and their head of marketing asked me this question, which is, this work that you're doing for us, because of all these rules, we can't do it for our agents, but they really need it. Do you know of anybody who can help our agents with their online marketing, kind of run that for them? And I, of course, said no. And, went back to work. And then the next morning I woke up and was like, wait a second. And so I called him up and asked if I had this solution, would he bring it to his agents? And his response was, when can we schedule the webinar with him? And so we pushed it out like 90 days, give me 90 days about the simplest, most rudimentary, we call it an MVP now, but just like duct tape and chewing gum version. And 90 days later, we did a webinar and brought on 7 clients.
Wow. Off that first webinar
session. Yeah.
Wow. And then you were off to the races after that. Is that how did you get your first 100 customers? How did you go from 7 to 100?
Yeah, so 0 to 7 was really easy. 7 to 100 was slower because I got those 7 clients and I was like, okay. And we were charging, way underpriced we just, the idea was low cost, self-service, easy, remove all barriers to entry. And so we got a handful of clients, had some billing coming in, and then I just went back to work and kind of forgot about it. And I had ideas of things I wanted to improve, but it really wasn't the focus for a long time. And so it just sort of kind of simmered. And I think about this a lot with SaaS, especially funded SaaS. There's like such an urgency to get to 100 and to grow fast. And we hear a lot about the rocket ships that take off and get to $25 million in revenue in 7 months. Just these insane stories. I think those are the minority. The majority is just kind of a slow simmer. And that's how it was for us. It was, we just picked up a client or two here or there over time. And I don't know when we crossed 100. I don't remember how fast it was, but it wasn't because of any kind of magic trick. It was because we just were in the market, provided a service that people needed. And as we got more exposure, we got more signups.
So you didn't set out to build something for the insurance industry straight away. You just kind of, that's just sort of the path that ended up opening up for you. Do you think a lot of founders, because you see a lot of the same ideas getting rebuilt and rebuilt and rebuilt, everyone's just trying to build a better mousetrap. And it sort of feels like there are lots of other industries, lots of other problems that could be solved and need to be solved, but nobody's building solutions for them. And everyone's kind of competing to build another photo sharing app or another, yet another social network or yet another Me Too kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's so many like consumery kind of ideas. I get all these people call me up and say, I have this idea where, you can go in restaurants, you can get on the waiting list using your cell phone. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but it's not, it's not a big problem that people are going to pay a lot of money for. And I think that we're drawn to problems that are in our own space, so like the whole scratching your own itch. That's a phrase we hear, right? Scratch your own itch. I think most of the itches that are related to like software development or kind of entrepreneurialism are very well scratched at this point, and to the point where they might be kind of raw. And if you touch them, it's going to hurt. So I don't think it's like, that's not to me a good mantra today. Like scratching your own itch can be fun. It can be inspiring, but there's lots of big problems to solve in less sexy businesses if you go out and look. And I don't think you have to be an insider. You don't have to come from that industry to do it. You just have to spend the time to learn what pains they face. Every industry, there's tons of unsolved problems to tackle. There's tons of pain to go and solve, but we just have to go and look beyond kind of where we're at. So I feel pretty strongly about that if we can get out of our own world a little bit, there's so much to do still. But all the problems here are already well solved.
I think someone said to me once that so most SaaS businesses are started by people with a background in software. It makes sense. But if you think about if you're working as a software engineer, there's a finite pool of problems that you're likely to encounter on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
That's why you've got something for restaurants. Maybe you go out to dinner. That's why there's more software. Yet more developer tools. But a problem for an insurance agent, you're not going to come across unless you're talking to insurance agents, unless you happen to be consulting for them. So that's how the genesis of this. Fantastic. Is there anything that surprised you? Like what marketing channels did you use? Were they effective? What worked and what didn't work for you when reaching that audience, given that you kind of came from a different world to your customers?
The whole scratching your own itch thing, it goes way beyond the problem that you solve. It's like how you engage and how you market. And I mentioned before, my original vision was this like low cost, because it's like, oh, cheap, so it's an easy decision, and self-service, so you can go sign up. And when we think back to especially consumer or kind of prosumer SaaS, you see low price points and you see like 30-day free trial, lots of kind of removing that friction. But please don't ever call them. Don't ever reach out. And as sort of a techie person, that's how I want to buy also. I want to I don't want to have to talk. I don't want to have to get on the phone and do a sales presentation. Forget that. Schedule a demo. I want to go and on my own time, without having to speak with anybody, do a demo or do a trial, and get in and get my hands dirty and play with things. And I think to a lot of tech founders, tech people, that makes sense, right? I mean, I don't know how you want to buy. Is it, do you want to get on a sales call with somebody, or do you want to just go and try it? You're nodding yes. I think it's the try it.
It's funny that you say this. I was talking to Andy Allen from Hike SEO earlier today, and he was saying, so it's a tool for small business owners to do their own SEO. It's like a self-serve thing. And he was actually telling a story where they had a book a demo button in there, and that was just the path. Like from the very beginning, it was always book a demo, book a demo, book a demo. And then someone got sick, they weren't able to do it, so they pulled it out and made it self-serve, and their conversion rate increased. So I think it kind of highlights the point that you really need to know your customer, because people buy in different ways, and some people want a phone call, some people want to be left alone and just to play with the tool themselves. I mean, I personally, I'm like you. I'd rather just, I don't want to talk to anyone. Let me jump in, see if I like it, see if it's for me. I want to, try and break it. I want to use it in anger first to see, how does it stack up. But a lot of the world doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I think most of the world doesn't work that way. And so this is like, we were scratching our own itch. I was like, let's make it self-service, and please don't ever call us. And that I had to unlearn that. And I had to learn that, not only do my customers have problems they need solved, they want to be marketed and sold to in specific ways. And every industry is different. There's, the selling SEO tools to small businesses is different than selling tools to insurance agents, small businesses, but a very specific kind. And it wasn't until I dug into that and not just figured out what problems my clients have, but how they want to go about learning about solutions for those problems and acquiring products to solve those problems, that we would really kind of hit the nail. We had a great product, but we weren't connecting with our market the right way.
How far into the journey were you before that penny dropped and you had that realization?
Embarrassingly far. Yeah. Partially because this started as a side project, and so it's like, well, I don't want to have to get on the phone and wreck my day with a bunch of sales calls. And also at $20 a month, you can't do sales calls. So I was like, well, I can't afford to do sales calls. And so it took a long time of customers trying to get us on the phone to realize, oh, this is what they want, and that it's not the price or the ease of sign up that they care about. It's the problem they need solved. And when we figured that out, we realized that we could charge a lot more because we understood the value of the problem better, and that the price was not the feature that they were buying. There wasn't no price. So we realized that we could charge a fair amount, a appropriate amount for our service, and still do live sales, live support, live engagement. We added a like Hike. We added a button that was the opposite. So we had the sign up now or schedule a demo. And this was on our pricing page first, and immediately, almost 100% of the people chose the demo. It wasn't 50-50.
Wow.
It was like in a year, hundreds and hundreds of demos, and maybe a half a dozen people went in and did the trial.
Wow. It was that clear cut. Wow.
It was that clear cut. We went a step further, and then we changed our call to action on our homepage from, try it now to schedule a demo. We had pricing on our site. You can go and see what it cost. And almost none of our prospects had even looked at the pricing page. They were looking at what we did, and they wanted to get on the phone and talk to us. And they wanted to discuss how we solve their problems and understand that before they cared about price.
So the way you'd kind of envision that whole user journey was probably backwards.
Y-
What I
well,
would
we're
think
not-
is go to pricing page first. If that's in within your
yeah,
budget, then you go through and you're like, okay, now I'll talk to someone, or now I'll sign up and give it a
yeah,
go. But they want
yeah.
to talk to someone first.
They want to talk to someone
Mm,
first, and they want to get their questions answered, and they want to my customers, the live sales demo is much more efficient
mm.
than just poking around on their own. If they can get on a call with somebody in my team for half an hour to an hour, talk about their business, their problem, what they're trying to do, they'll get the answer they need and make a decision. Whereas if they get a free trial, it's like 14 days of screwing around and not really knowing.
So and then they end up churning because they weren't able to figure it out on
Yeah,
their own.
and then they're not successful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So if you change that around, so do customers have to go through a demo now? How have you changed your sales process or your funnel as a result of that?
They do have to.
Mm.
Yeah, and that sounds worse than it is because they all want to, but we don't even bother with the self-service because those customers are almost never
Yeah.
successful. They sign up and then they don't activate. They don't get the pieces in place they need to succeed.
Mm.
So we just shut that channel down because it didn't work for us.
What else did you need to change? So once you had that realization that okay, we're gonna put people through a demo first, and everyone's going to talk to a salesperson first. I mean, you've talked about changing your pricing. Were there any other impacts that you noticed? Did you have to change your onboarding? Did that affect retention? Like what did that
Yeah,
look like for you?
yeah. You can kind of like this switch, right? From self-service to sales-driven. You can almost run that through every piece of our funnel and our customer relationship. So how our customers do research, they generally don't go to Google and start typing in search queries.
Mm.
They don't click on ads. And so we were working hard at pay-per-click,
Mm-hmm.
doing AdWords. We were working hard at SEO. And we discovered that those are actually the kind of the worst channels for us to get customers because customers that are driven by that self-service research and purchase were tended just not to be the customers that were successful on our platform.
Mm.
And so we had to look at, acquiring customers differently, different channels to get in front of our market. And then the same thing on the success side. These are customers who don't go in and figure it out. And so we added live onboarding.
Mm-hmm.
So every one of our customers, and we charge for this, but they go through a onboarding process.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 4 hours
Whoa.
of one-on-one Zoom calls. And so we have an onboarding success team that helps them get activated.
Mm.
And that took our success from like 50 or 60% to basically 100%.
Wow.
Because we can make sure that every customer gets everything done they need to get done. And we're not quite project managing them,
Mm-hmm.
but in a sense we are. We call it done with you.
Mm.
So we're there with them, teaching them how to use our platform and getting all the pieces in place that they need to be successful. So at the end of that, they're not figuring things out. They're up and running.
Mm.
They're seeing results. They're getting the benefits. The pieces are in place.
Is that a filter? Like, is that one way of helping you decide whether this person is going to be a long-term customer or not? Or do you have other ways of kind of decide? Because I think some people fall into the trap of everyone is my customer, and then whenever they see people leave, they kind of optimize for the people who leave rather than the people who stay.
Right.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
If you compare a paid onboarding with a live sales demo to a free trial,
Mm.
somebody who's invested half hour to an hour in a sales demo, or maybe even multiple calls,
Mm-hmm.
and then paid for onboarding and sat through 4 hours of that, the level of investment they have versus somebody who created a free trial there's no comparison.
Mm.
And so they're more invested in our product, but also you're not going to do that work and pay the onboarding if you're not sure. If you are still kicking the tires and you're just not ready to commit, it is a test. It is like a commitment test.
Mm.
And definitely that had huge impacts in our retention because the customers we were bringing on board were not thinking 30 days out. They were thinking 1 to 3 years out.
Is there anything else that you look for that would tend to indicate this is the sort of customer that's going to be successful, and this is the sort of customer that might be better served by using something else instead.
I was talking to a relatively new SaaS founder a couple weeks ago, and he was in the all revenue is good revenue mindset. So it's like, you know what? Even if they churn in 90 days, I get 90 days of billings from them. So it's money. And I get that because if you just quit your job and you have rent to pay, you need to have billing coming in. But on the other hand, we're building subscription businesses, and the subscription kind of by nature is somebody who keeps resubscribing to your product. So the long-term value of a SaaS business is that subscription, is retaining those subscriptions. And once you get beyond just kind of paying your rent every month and being able to survive, as SaaS founders, we have to look at what's the value of the organization that we're building. And that is based on our long-term retained clients and our client subscriptions. So we're now at a point where we don't want those quick churn, like those customers that are going to stay less than a year, customers that are coming in and sort of thinking, well, try it, see if it works, but they're not really sure. We want them to do more research before they sign up. And so we do push back. And so if we talk to somebody in a sales call and we think that they're not ready or they're not a good fit or the problems that we solve are not the problems that they have, it's not nailed, we will tell them no, or we will work with them to kind of dig in a little more to make sure that the fit's there. It's two-way.
Yeah.
It has to be two-way. That's for a customer who otherwise is a kind of a good qualified customer. There's an entire universe of people who aren't the right fit, who aren't qualified. And so we've developed some tests to kind of pre-qualify our pipeline. And we know that there's some customers that are just not going to be successful, that they don't have the pieces in place in their business to see long-term success using ours. And so we could say, well, we might get 6 months or a year revenue out of them, but we're not going to get a long-term successful customer. And so we don't want to sell to those customers because that's not what our business is built on.
How long did it take you to sort of identify the traits of the companies that are going to be successful and the businesses that are going to be successful and the businesses that are not going to be successful? Like is that years of data? Is that phone calls and conversations? Is that something that you kind of realize?
My answer is always going to be too long. And maybe because we're all impatient, right? It's like everything takes too long. But I think that I have had kind of blinders on, and we have a way, and it took me a long time to recognize good customers from bad customers. There's some pretty simple things. We look at how long they've been an insurance agent. So if it's less than a year, it's a really hard job to get started. The half-life of a newly licensed insurance agent, can you guess how long people, if you went to insurance class today and got licensed today, how long would it be until half of your classmates quit the business?
Ooh. Is this one of those things where they say, like 90% of small businesses fail within the first year? Is that kind of a statistic, or is it?
Yeah, it's much faster.
Really?
So the half-life is 13 weeks.
Whoa. Oh, okay. Wow.
So people go, and it's like I can go sell insurance. I'll go try it out. That first year is really, really hard. You sell a policy to your neighbor and your mom and a couple of friends, and then you're just like, what do I do now? Now I'm that annoying guy at the party trying to talk about life insurance or ask people about their health insurance. It's a hard first year. Third year, the fifth year, the 10th year become amazing. Because once you have a client base, a book of business, or, retained policyholders, it's like a subscription business where they keep renewing their policies. Many of the policies will pay commissions on renewal, and so there are agents that are making hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year just on renewals. Not all of them, but it's out there. But that first year sucks. And so they're looking for holy grails. They're looking for like, what can I do? And so they see our platform and they hear about what we do and they're like, okay, maybe this is it. And so we have a never-ending stream of brand new agents knocking at our door. We're too expensive. And they're not going to see the results yet because they don't have the raw material in their own business for us to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the first filter. It's like if you haven't been in business for 1 year, chances are pretty good you're not going to be successful on our platform. And the second is the size of the business. So how many insurance policies have they sold? Because you can stay in the business for a year and sell 6 policies if you have a spouse that's bringing in your income or something else.
Mm-hmm.
So we have those 2 filters. When we came up with this was last year, about a year ago. We went and we kind of created a little grading rubric of how good a customer is, how strong the fit is based on those criteria. And so we went back and looked at all of 2022, every customer that signed up in 2022. And we went through and we graded them all, 1, 2, or 3. 3 is like dream customer. They are a perfect fit. They check off all the boxes of what we want in a customer. 2 is a base hit, a good customer, but not perfect. And 1 is probably doesn't meet our criteria. Not a great customer. So we graded all of our customers. At the end of 2022, about 15 months later, we had all the 3s were still customers. So 100% of them were with us.
Wow.
So the good fit, of course, to them, they got the value. We were able to deliver what they needed. It was our price is no brainer for them compared to what they see in return. 100% of them were still customers. Of the 2s, 15 months later, is about 90%. So we retained, most of them.
Yeah.
Of the 1s, none were still customers.
Wow.
100% had churned.
So that's a pretty pretty watertight process then for grading them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in our business that criteria tells you a lot. It's like, okay, so if we're looking for long-term happy customers where we're adding long-term value, just don't even sell to 1s. Somebody, if the criteria tells us they're a 1, we tell them, you know what, we're not the right solution for you. Or at the point in your business, you're not going to see the return you want. So, if you can do these things, call us back, and then we can talk about how we can help you.
I think a lot of SaaS founders are probably sitting there thinking, okay, well, like I would love to be able to know for sure that this kind of customer is still going to be around, a year later, 2 years later. If I had a better way of identifying them, that's a concrete tactical thing that I could do that is going to aid with retention. Just being able to find the best customers in the first place. Is there anything else, like any other specific tactics that you use for reducing churn at AgentMethods?
Yeah, the customer criteria thing is really tough, right? Because I got there after years of data. And so we didn't start there. And most of us that bootstrap start kind of in the low end of the market. So it's, if you're bootstrapping a software business, you're not going enterprise. You're going small sales first. And that's, what we found is like those really small, unstable businesses are bad businesses. And that's an obvious thing. But you have to do enough of that to get the data to recognize what it is that makes them bad. So it's tough. It's tough to tell somebody who's, brand new starting out, my story, because I didn't wake up knowing this. It took a long time to figure it out. But then retention beyond that. So keeping customers long-term. I think that's a never-ending struggle. Like every single cancellation is like a stab in my heart. I probably should not even see them. I have to look, and it's always like a bit of me dies. We're trying to take a really open mind about that and look at every customer, and if we can get some feedback. It's really hard to get feedback from canceled customers because by the time they're canceled, they're done.
Yeah.
I've tried to do things where we've tried to pay people who've canceled to come and talk to us. Just tell us, what was your process when you decided to cancel? What were you thinking? We've offered $50 gift cards for a 15-minute call, and those are really hard to get. I thought that'd be a no-brainer, but people don't want to talk about it at that point. Just too bad, because we want to learn. But we do look at the success factors we see customers that are succeeding in our platform are hitting. And so we track usage, we track their activities, and we've built a dashboard in our system that shows us customers that are not doing those things. And so we look at it as a list of kind of potentially at-risk customers. So we have a list of customers that we see they're not hitting all of the criteria that we think they need to hit to be really successful on our platform. And it's kind of a by hell or high water, how can we get them to go and change their behavior? Sometimes they don't need to. Sometimes we talk to them and they're like, yeah, that thing that you're tracking, I don't care about that, but I love everything else.
Okay.
And sometimes they're okay. But sometimes they need something.
Yeah.
And if we can get to them before they think about canceling, if we can be proactive instead of reactive, we can help them get that value. And so that's become a really big focus for us is like being proactive, before churn, to go and find customers that need help.
Do you know how long it takes, just out of curiosity, do you know how long it takes between when you start seeing some warning signs and when they actually cancel? Like what's the lead time on that? Is it 6 months? Is it 12 months out? Is it a few weeks?
I don't know. I don't know. And it's probably like buying things, like canceling things is probably a different journey for, like there's a canceler's journey.
I had a mentor who used to say it's almost like breaking up with someone. Like you mentally check out long before you actually get around to having the conversation. And then afterwards, if they said, oh, well, what did I do wrong? You don't really want to have to go and revisit that. You've sort of already
Right.
kind of moved on from there. So I understand why it's hard to get them to come back at the point where they've already decided to, they decided to cancel long before they actually hit the cancel button. Are there any other tactics that you use to reduce churn?
Yes. I'm not sure what they are. We're trying everything we can. I mean, client retention is the most important metric. I think it's like the number one most important thing. And I want it to be 0. It will never be 0. But we have to as SaaS founders keep asking ourselves this question of how can we deliver more value to our customers? How can we make our product better and improve their lives and their businesses and their results? And for us, that's a never-ending quest. That's how can we go and dig deeper and make it more and more of a no-brainer. So it's an obvious thing that using our software is so much better than not, that they would never cancel. This is kind of a nirvana state.
Yep.
But it's something that we're asking ourselves this every day.
If you had to point to one thing that you've tried that's been really effective, is it just that being proactive and reaching out to them when you start to see that the wheels are coming off a little bit? Is there any other churn reduction tactic that you've tried that you could say, you know what, that's an absolute winner?
Yeah, I mean, I even the being proactive thing, it's hard to know. I mean, our churn has continually gotten better. Retention's gotten better. So I know that things are working. But I don't know. I can't tell you who that's saved. So it's hard to point to one thing. For us, if you go back and look at our recurring revenue graph, the hockey stick changed. We hit the hockey stick, like the rate of growth changed, and that was when we went to live sales and live onboarding, because getting the right people in so they stay, and then making sure they get activated, like that's solving churn at day one. So as opposed to 1 year from now, if they're getting value and the system is working on day one, that greatly improves their success rate long term.
So some founders they've got a problem with churn and they're trying to reduce it, sometimes they need to look a little bit further up the funnel. If they're getting the wrong customers in from the very beginning, it's going to be, they're on this hamster wheel trying to keep up. Whereas if they got the right customers from day one, then 30-day, 90-day retention is going to be so much better. 1 year retention is going to be so much better. And they're so focused on the point of cancellation. If they just looked a little bit further back in time, they'd probably have an answer.
Right. If we think about that 2022 where I went and graded all of our new customers, like if we never sold to those bad fit, those one out of 3 customers, if we just never even sold to them, mean, first off, today they're not part of our recurring revenue anyway because they're all gone. But then they would never have shown up as churn.
Okay.
If we never sold them, our retention in 2022 would have been amazing. Right. We just had 2s and 3s in our funnel.
Yeah, 90% stayed on or 100% stayed on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be better than 90% annually, which for a kind of a lower priced monthly business would be great.
Just wanted to change tack for a moment now, and just zooming out a little bit. So I want to talk about you as a founder and maybe how your perspective on building a business has changed over time. How do you think about risk and managing risk? Is that something that's changed over time? Is that something that's still been pretty constant from day one?
Right. There's the myth that entrepreneurs are risk takers, and it's not. I don't think we're not out recklessly doing things. Problem solvers. I think that early on, like I think about that phone call where I called back to that client of mine and said, "Hey, if I did this," in a sense that was a risk. I didn't know if I could even build the thing. Maybe I would pay for it. And so I did take some risks there, but I also kind of had nothing to lose. And so in those first days when it's just like you're kind of getting from 0 to 1 or, your first 100 customers, it's like there is kind of nothing to lose. And so you just try everything. And so maybe we look risky at that point. Entrepreneurs are out just kind of, recklessly trying stuff, throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks, just playing around. I know that for us, once we found out what stuck, once we got some traction and started getting clients and we had a product that worked, then it became like super lockdown. Like don't mess with the golden goose. And so we became super risk averse, and also we don't have, we're growing a business. We didn't have millions of dollars in the bank from a venture capitalist or somebody else to go and gamble with. So we had to stay profitable. We had to stay lean. So experimenting, doing, trying out new channels and trying out new products and stuff just wasn't on the table for us. So I think we got very risk averse. Now we're kind of back to risk a little bit because we're looking for ways that we can reach our market faster. We're looking at ways where we can expand the value we create to our customers. And there's sort of a barrier to entry of some sales and marketing channels where you have to have enough revenue to be able to even go play there. And so now that we've gotten there, like we did a deal last year with sort of an influencer type thing. And it cost us like 15 grand. And we had no idea if it was going to work or not. It did not. It did not work out. Gambling $15,000 our first year when we were just getting going would have killed us.
Right.
And so now we have enough going on, enough capital to survive those mistakes. It's a mistake, those learnings. We can do that. And I think that as our steps get bigger, as we're trying to cover more territory and move faster, we have to gamble is not the right word, but we have to try bigger things. We have to take bigger steps, and that means that we are exposing ourselves to what might look like bigger risk.
But you almost need to get to a point where you've got the resources where either you can place bigger bets, or you can place a lot more small bets without that sinking the company.
Yeah.
I think when you're first starting out, you've really only got the resources, especially if you're bootstrapping, to try a couple of channels before you run out of cash and you got to go back and get a job. So
yeah.
Does it almost look kind of U-shaped? Like at the beginning, you've got nothing to lose, so you can swing for the fences and try some stuff, because if it doesn't work, well, you go back to your day job. But when you get to a point where you're full time, you're all in on this. This is your income. This is what's paying the bills, what's paying your employees' bills. You really can't go tinkering with it too much, because if you have a few bad bets in a row, you're done.
This is why we know like every SaaS founder in the world needs to raise their price, right? It's like 100% need to raise your price, but we're all so paralyzed and afraid because once you have customers that are buying at a price, changing that is freaking terrifying.
Yeah.
It seems so risky. It's not, but it feels that way.
Mm.
And it's because we're in that kind of that path where we're starting to get things that work. People are paying for our service a certain amount. If we mess with that formula, we could screw up everything.
If you were to give one piece of advice to other SaaS founders, Aaron, what would it be?
Can I give more than one?
Give me your top three.
Okay, top three. I think one is be patient, and at least if you're bootstrapped, you don't. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And I know for me, I see all these stories. I hear about these. I was joking about that company that goes from 0 to 25 million in 30 days or whatever. You're always benchmarking marking yourself against these like crazy success stories. You don't know what went on there. It takes a long time, and sometimes ideas have to mature and evolve, or your market has to catch up with you. Sometimes you just have to be patient. And I do see people start businesses and then, well, I tried that, it didn't work. And it worked, but they hadn't given it time to really get traction. So that's one is be patient. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And the other one I think is kind of what I've been saying throughout our conversation, which is, it's the cliche. It's like, talk to your customers, get to know your customers really well, and understand their pain, understand how they operate, how they buy, what the world looks like. Go sit in their office. Spend time looking at what they do all day, and see how they solve problems, see how they get help, see what they do when when something's not working. And all of that information is so valuable, because it's like our product is just a small part of how this fits into our clients' worlds. And the better we understand the interface, the better we can deliver the value that we're trying to deliver to them.
I think that second piece is it's interesting, because it's kind of, it is a bit of a cliche sometimes, and yet even the most experienced founders that I've met, I'm 100% guilty of this myself. We think that we know our customer inside out. I don't need to talk to them. No, I've got this. I figured it out. But the world's changed, or the customers change, or we don't know our customers as well as we think we do. And it's always, I always learn something new every time I talk to a customer. And so I think that's something that we have to work really proactively at. I know people that schedule that in. They'll block out a certain amount of time per month to just pick up the phone and talk to some customers. I suppose it's easier in your case if you've got customers that want to get on the phone call. A bit harder if you're selling dev tools or something and they're absolutely averse to getting on a call with anyone. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot of value in talking to customers and understanding things from their perspective a little bit more, because there's always more to learn. Aaron, if anyone's interested in learning more about AgentMethods or in contacting you, what's the best way to get in touch?
The best way is agentmethods.com is our website, and we're growing. We've got some pretty big hiring plans this year, and I know a product manager role is going to be opening up soon. So if you're interested in that, I'd love to talk to you. I guess I can give my email address. It's my first name, Aaron, @agentmethods.com. Drop me an email. And yeah.
Perfect. And if you find yourself on all sorts of random email lists that you never signed up for, now you know why.
Yeah, I'm good at unsubscribing. So I love to talk to people, but don't sign me up.
Aaron, thank you so much, mate. There were some really, really, really good insights in that. Really appreciate it. And I think anyone listening to this has probably learned quite a bit today. Thank you so much for your time, mate.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.